57. The Island of Dr. Tyranno. Ryan had to give it to Dynamis. The company spoiled its heroes rotten. Enrique had granted the courier a full penthouse suite, located on the Optimates Tower's 25th floor. Ryan slept in an apartment-sized bedroom, with a plasma screen TV and an unbeatable picturesque window view of the city. The suite was fully stocked with amenities and tastefully decorated, with no inch of ground left without a carpet. Each piece of furniture had been carefully selected to create an atmosphere of opulent relaxation. The bathroom included a private pool with a jacuzzi included, and even a bar. The suite itself was only part of the package though. Ryan had a dedicated staff available at all times to fulfill all his whims, from the mundane to the truly bizarre. The courier had tested the waters and learned almost nothing was off the table for him, from drugs to prostitutes, so long as none of his excesses made their way to the media anyway. And the cherry on top of the cake, the walls and windows were soundproof. Of course, the suite was filled with cameras spying on him, but Ryan hacked them 5 minutes after taking over. On the morning of May 11th, the courier finished dressing in his new costume, when he heard someone ring the bell. "Somebody call security, the poor are at the gates," he declared through the intercom, though a camera system showed him Wardrobe and Adam Cat waiting on the other side. "I can't stand the stench of the middle class. Does your Majesty want cake for his morning breakfast?" For once Felix didn't wear his face mask, revealing his true face to the world, and quite the handsome one too. He looked like a masculine version of his gorgeous sister. "Hi, Ryan," Wardrobe said, much more politely. "Can we get in? We have a tight schedule today." Ryan lowered himself to let these guests inside his lair, even if Adam Cat looked too much like a nouveau riche for his refined patrician tastes. The splendor of his suite immediately floored his teammates. "How is it that your place is bigger than mine?" Wardrobe asked, green with envy, as they made their way into the main room. Ryan's sofa was larger than most king-sized beds, and faced a state-of-the-art home cinema. "I thought only pro-leaguers could get a penthouse suite?" "I have special needs," Ryan replied, trying to sound as foppish and pompous as possible. "I fall ill without 300 square meters to live in." "I have a big one too," Felix said, his dirty, plebeian mind unimpressed by the luxurious penthouse. "I suppose Enrique wanted to make us feel welcome." "That, and to bribe them." Ryan hadn't gotten anything like this suite in his previous Dynamis run, probably because Enrique didn't feel the need to placate him. "What did Greenhand say when you gave him the recording?" "He said thank you, and sent us on our way," Felix replied with a scoff. Disappointing, but not surprising. Blackthorn probably needed more time to make a move against his patriarch. Unfortunately, Ryan wasn't certain they had it with Psyshock still at large. On one hand, his demise had caused Adam to throw away all caution in his attempt to unlock the satellite, but Psyshock also provided near-limitless cannon fodder to throw at the bunker's defenses. Though Ryan and Len warned residents like Polly to escape the district, the courier had no idea if it would slow down the metagang's progress. Ryan remembered that Vulcan's disastrous assault on Rust Town happened on May 12th, with Psyshock blasting everyone to Kingdom Come with Mekran's mech. It meant that even with PSY, the meta shouldn't unlock the bunker's full power before that date, or else they would have used the Bahamut on the invaders. After May 12th though, this loop would enter uncharted territories. And that was without taking Livia into account. "Though I saw Wyvern go into his office right after us," Adam Cat added. "She looked rather pleased too. I wonder why." "If you want to hear all the hero gossip, you have found your gal," Wardrobe said with a wide smile. "Do you know Blackthorn and Wyvern are an on and off item?" "No way," Ryan said with shocked surprise. "But what about Vulcan? I thought they had a passionate love-hate relationship going on too, but no. Devilry is into girls though, but Wyvern politely let her down when she made a pass at her." The stylist looked at the two boys with her big, beautiful eyes. Are you both? I'm straight, Felix said quickly, and not looking for romance. I'm flexible, Ryan said with a seductive voice, and available. I thought you were dating the underdiver. Wardrobe looked both curious and slightly disappointed. The romantic tension is palpable between you. The courier looked away. It's complicated. I'm looking for something new. Truth was, when Ryan woke up this morning, his drowsy mind had wondered why Jasmine wasn't in the bed. And then he remembered, and he felt the pain of losing her all over again. Ryan knew he shouldn't have grown attached to a woman or lowered his guard, but the damage was done. He didn't want to forget Jasmine, not after she made him promise not to, but the courier only knew one way to numb the emotional pain. Filling the gaping void with distractions, better to keep running forward than sit alone with his regrets. Is that a Batman-Catwoman thing where you fight on two different sides of the law, and you want to be together, but the world conspires to keep you apart? We can work with that, you know. Hey, kitty. Ryan abruptly changed the subject and asked his second favorite cat. Something has been bothering me for a while. Did anybody ask you how lightning butts invulnerability works? You can't evade me forever, Ryan, Wardrobe said, determined to learn everything about his romantic life. Felix snorted at Mob Zeus' nickname, though it put him in a bad mood. Enrique already beat you to it. No idea, and he murdered everybody who could possibly harm him. Do you have a list of them? Ryan asked. With the information he had gathered from his previous loops, he could perhaps find the true nature of Mob Zeus' invulnerability. He wanted peace with Livia, but he had the feeling he might have to confront Lightning but at one point in order to achieve his perfect run. I know a few, but the only person with the full list is Mercury, the organization's spymaster, Felix replied. I thought that talking skull controlled gambling dens and money laundering. Ryan asked. Come to think of it, I wonder why they still launder money when there are no taxes to pay. It's because Mercury's division is a submarine, Atom Cat replied. He can breathe underwater better than bugs? That's not funny, Ryan, Wardrobe said as she sat on the sofa, though she forced herself not to smile at his pitch-black joke. As it turned out, Shorty's bubbles were an experimental technology, and not that reliable. Mosquito's water prison ended up malfunctioning, perhaps due to his peculiar biology, and caused him brain damage from a lack of oxygen. Then again, what did Ryan expect? Communists could never make good products. Don't know, I never tried to drown him, Felix mused. Augustus uses the laundered money to infiltrate European communities that oppose him. Mercury funnels dirty money into legitimate businesses that then take over companies, institutions, farms, etc. He even managed to infiltrate some of Dynami's contractors from what I heard. Don't kid yourself, every branch of that organization supports a criminal takeover. Every last one. Atom Cat then crossed his arms while Wardrobe put on the TV and checked the news. And, as I told Enrique, I think there's something wrong with Augustus. You mean besides the sociopathic narcissism? Ryan asked, though he shared the same intuition. He has been strangely lethargic in the last few years. Beforehand, he used to track down some foes himself, to remind the masses that he's a tough psychopath you don't want to mess with, but now he lets Pluto do it for him and hasn't left his villa in years. Dad told me he seems to forget the world exists for minutes at a time, and he keeps an electrical halo around himself whenever he's in public. When I asked Livia why, she wouldn't answer. He's sick? Wardrobe asked with a frown. I dunno, he's supposed to be invulnerable. Felix shrugged. Maybe it's just age or depression. Ryan didn't think so. The courier must have annoyed Lightning but for 4 years with his time stops, but it literally took an orbital laser for the mob boss to get out of his house. The courier had seen the signs on the wall, the sick, sullen face mob Zeus hid beneath his bright halo, the way his family members were uneasy around him. Something was wrong with New Rome's godfather. "Hey, look!" Wardrobe interrupted their discussion, a finger pointed at the TV. "They're talking about us." Ryan glanced at the plasma screen, as the news showed a recap of yesterday's events. The main video showed the panda proudly bringing the psychos into custody, Wardrobe answering journalist questions while Adam Cat ignored them, and Enrique congratulating everyone for making New Rome a safer place. Someone had also managed to find a photo of Ryan in his old costume, and Dynanet theories proliferated on him. Truly, the headlines said it all, the menagerie, Il Miglior's newest golden children. New hero team deals a heavy blow to psychos everywhere. Who is Quick Save? The menagerie, seriously? Adam Cat asked with a heavy sigh. I should have called myself Adam Smasher. Felix, even marketing wouldn't let you use such a silly name, Wardrobe said with a smirk. I heard rumors they want to pitch us as a team, young and hip. I will be the leader, as the senior pro hero, and you'll be my Padawans. Yuki, no. Ryan protested, horrified. You know what happens to mentor figures in hero stories? Don't become my Obi-Wan, please. I know, it seems like a bad idea, but think long-term. Wardrobe insisted. I can stage my retirement with a Merlin costume, as you are inspired by my demise to become true heroes. And then, I can make a surprise comeback tour dressed as Jesus. Felix clearly didn't understand her evil scheme, but Ryan thought it made perfect sense. Anyway, Adam Cat said. Time to go. We have to go to the Dynamis HQ next door and meet with Dr. Tyranno. The elixir expert? Ryan asked, suddenly curious.
Yeah.
He wants to study our powers. Felix shrugged again. The panda is already there for a thorough checkup. And then afterward, we go to Star Studios, Wardrobe said with a bright smile. We're going to appear in the Stinger of Wyvern's flight too. Before we go. Ryan looked at Wardrobe. Yuki, I have something for you. Oh, a gift? She smiled at him. I love gifts. I never have enough of them. What kind of gift? Let me tell you of its backstory first. I was about to go to bed, wearing only my boxers, when I was struck by a surge of inspiration. A wild Dionysian spirit possessed my body, and forced me to put on the bowler hat. You should have kept your scarf, Wardrobe replied, worried for his mental stability. I warned you. I warned you. Yes, but it's all right. Because my muse inspired me to repay the debt I owe you. You, who had made this perfect costume. I had to return the favor. Ryan moved into his bedroom, and returned with his gift. The media call us the menagerie because we have an animal theme going on. Timmy is a panda, Felix is a cat, I have a rabbit plushie. I figured that, even if you can turn into an animal mascot, I had to make something for you. I remembered you had a few scandalous magazines in your office, and it clicked. Ryan presented her with his newest creation, a homemade costume for his favorite stylist. His marvelous creation, inspired by his very own rabbit plushie, included a headband with brown rabbit ears, a red necklace with a yellow ribbon, and a black velvet leotard. Pairs of black tights, high heels, and golden bracelets completed the set. In short, it was a Playboy bunny costume. Felix blinked repeatedly, and then looked at Yukiko with apprehension. This foolish plebeian probably thought the stylish hero would take offense, for this scandalous, 18-plus costume left almost nothing up to the imagination. A puff-puff costume. Wardrobe squealed in joy. How did you know I didn't have one? But she was a woman of culture above all else. Wait, Yuki, you like that? Felix asked Wardrobe, astonished, as she examined the costume with a joyful face. I love kinky costumes, she replied. I just never get to wear them. Of course you don't, it's indecent. But it's made of velvet. Yuki's fingers touched the bunny ears, her eyes widening in rapturous surprise. And the ears, they're real fur. Mink? Mink. I always keep mink fur in my car trunk, Ryan replied proudly. You never know when you might have a clothing emergency. Adam Cat looked at him strangely. There are still wild minks in Italy? There were, Ryan whistled ominously, before focusing on his new BFF. I wanted to make the Dragon Ball costume, but then I remembered you couldn't use anything copyrighted. Wait, did copyright still function if the country where it was registered no longer existed? Yuki's power made no sense. Ryan, you are adorable and I love it, Wardrobe replied before grabbing the costume. I'll put it in my room and try it on tonight. No way Dynamis will let you dress like that in public though, Felix stated the obvious. Wyvern wears a leotard just fine, the stylist pointed out. Yes, but it isn't a Playboy bunny costume, and didn't you complain that Dynamis markets you as a kid-friendly superhero before? Wardrobe instantly deflated. Oh, yes, that's right, I forgot about it, it will clash with my current branding. Wait, I know a way to market it, Ryan said, struck by inspiration. He couldn't let his new BFF down. Yuki, you are transitioning from the Little League to the pro circuit. You are leaving the innocence of childhood behind, for the grim and gritty reality of crime fighting. A dark age phase, Wardrobe muttered to herself. And then when I become too grim and controversial, I emerge from the darkness with something classy and elegant. Like a bodysuit with a cape. Ryan summarized her marketing strategy in one sentence. A seamless transition from kids' mascot to adult icon. You know what, I don't think I'm comfortable wearing this in public yet, but I will totally wear it in private. Wardrobe kissed Ryan on the cheek. Thanks. You really shouldn't have. Wardrobe, there are beautiful things in this world, and you're one of them, Ryan admitted, struggling to hold back tears. I felt so alone before meeting you. The last bastion of culture in a world gone mad. I felt the same way too, she replied, with tears in her eyes. When I joined, they asked me to wear synthetic fibers. Synthetic fibers. No respect. No respect. It's okay, Yuki, it's okay, Ryan said while hugging Wardrobe, letting her head rest on his shoulder. Cry on my cashmere suit. Do you feel the softness? Do you feel better? Adam Cat watched the scene without a word, his face blank and his eyes squinting. Ryan felt attacked. Hey, kitten, stop judging us. Please don't reproduce, Felix deadpanned. New Rome won't survive 3 of you. In the previous loop, Ryan had long talked with Vulcan about Lab 66, the birthplace of knockoff elixirs. She particularly disliked the genius behind the operation, the so-called Dr. Tyranno, so when the courier learned they were supposed to meet him, he hoped to get a free tour of the mystery lab. But as it turned out, Dynamis afforded their head science honcho 2 floors for his experiments, and the group had an appointment in Lab 65. Even there, security was tight. Automated cameras monitored everything in the Dynamis HQ building, from the entrance lobby to the parking lot. One needed keycards to access each floor individually, so no thief could access everything even if they had stolen the necessary key. Guards in power armor waited before all elevator doors while drones patrolled the corridors, assisted by infrared and motion detection systems. Even Ryan would have a hard time sneaking in undetected, and it would certainly take more than 1 loop. An open assault or suicide run would be easier. When they passed through the blast doors leading to Lab 65, the time traveler expected to enter some kind of dimly lit mad scientist's lair. He was slightly disappointed. While the lab included mainstay features like liquid-filled tanks containing what appeared to be dinosaur embryos and operation tables, it was well lit and clean. Though the scene before them made up for the place's blandness. Sifu, save me. The naked panda had retreated to a corner of the lab, putting an operation table between himself and some kind of humanoid dinosaur. A monstrous, horned dog with scales instead of fur barked at the scene. He wants to cut me open. I only need a lung. The humanoid dinosaur hybrid reminded Ryan of a 2 meters tall T-Rex, albeit with human-sized arms, black scales, and crimson eyes. The strange mutant wore a white lab coat and tiny glasses optimized for his head shape, but most importantly, he carried a scalpel and a syringe in each hand. Stop struggling, or I will have to use anesthesia. You're not vivisecting the panda. Ryan instantly froze time and disarmed the dinosaur, tossing his weapons aside. He's the last of his kind.
Yeah.
Back off, Doc. Felix warned, hands raised as if willing to use his power inside the lab. Oh, hi Mr. Tyranno. Wardrobe waved a hand at the Saurian with a bright smile. Oh, hi Yuki, the scientist replied with a deep reptilian voice, stopping his panda harassment to look at Ryan. You, from your power, I assume you must be Cesare Sabino? Ryan instantly flinched, his playful mood replaced with frostiness. How do you know that? Sabino? Felix asked with a frown. Isn't that the Underdiver's family name? Wardrobe gasped in shock. No way, you are. We're not blood related. Ryan quickly said, raising a finger at his BFF. Don't you dare write fanfics about us. What, really? You are adopted? Dr. Tyranno didn't hide his disappointment. Such a shame, I would have loved to compare samples from various genome relatives. It is a rare opportunity. Wait, you took Len's DNA? Ryan asked, squinting suspiciously at the genius. The private security takes DNA scans of everyone in their custody, Felix reminded him. Dr. Tyranno shrugged it off. Doesn't matter, I will still need a sample anyway. I wouldn't recommend it, Ryan replied, slightly bothered by this scaled man. The courier loved attention, except when it involved being carved open on an operation table. It happened to him enough times already. I'm a drug so addictive, you won't be able to get enough of me. You have a green power in addition to your violet one? Dr. Tyranno asked, completely missing the point. Clearly, humor was a mammal-only feature. Then, I will need blood or hair, though sperm can work too. Some people prefer ejaculation to extraction. What, quick save, you didn't do a DNA test when you joined? Wardrobe asked. No, it's against my religion. You should reconsider, Dr. Tyranno insisted, his strange reptilian dog leaping into his arms. Violets are the second rarest powers in circulation after white genomes. Think about science.
Yeah.
Nope, Ryan replied, while the panda breathed easy now that he no longer interested the scientist. The courier patted his sidekick on the shoulder, before looking at the Dynaman's strange pet. What is this? It's Tricerator, one of my creations, Dr. Tyranno answered, petting the abomination against nature behind the horns. Half Labrador, half Triceratops. So it's like the platypus of dinosaurs? Ryan asked, his mood softening as he scratched the beast's belly. The animal made a saurian sound, but wagged its tail like a dog. Can you make a dino cat? I tried to splice a Persian cat and a velociraptor, but the end result died, the mad scientist replied. But I, Dr. Tyranno, swear that each household shall have its own dinosaur one day. And I would have already done so, if management didn't pester me about that T-Rex hunting safari. What, they want to create a reserve where rich people can hunt dinosaurs, like lions? Felix asked. Ridiculous, right? Said the man who tried to cut open a panda 1 minute ago. For a moment, I forgot we lived in a world where everything is for sale. In any case, Ryan immediately forgave the doctor for his terrible first impression. Someone wanting to make dinosaur pets couldn't possibly be a bad person, no matter what Jasmine could have said. Felix, don't blame Dr. Tyranno, he is a misunderstood genius, Wardrobe declared, with her hands on her waist. He's the one who made me my hero costume. A techno-organic symbiote capable of mimicking the shape of pre-recorded costumes, Dr. Tyranno explained almost absent-mindedly, while his tricerator escaped his grip to wander around the lab. Anyway, since you are new, I want to test your powers in a controlled environment. See if there are potential interactions, record the energy readings, etc. By dissecting one of our teammates? Felix mused, while the panda cowered. He fully regenerates whenever he switches from one form to another. Dr. Tyranno all but shouted. Even Wyvern needs time to heal naturally, but not this Werbear. With his ability, we could have an infinite, renewable source of organs. The panda was abducted by someone like this once. The poor animal seemed to relive a particularly nasty PTSD-induced episode. They thought they could make aphrodisiac from his blood. The panda had to flee. Now, I have to figure out where the extra organic material comes from by studying the transformation, Dr. Tyranno said, completely oblivious to his animal cruelty. Ryan needed to distract him, before he harmed his sidekick. Well, there isn't much to check, he lied to the scientist. I can stop time, my Pandawan can shapeshift, and my cat can blow up pebbles. Wardrobe chuckled. You can stop time and there is nothing interesting about that? About the pebbles part, after our last battle, I realized I could modulate my explosions. By now, Felix ignored all of Ryan's cat jokes, much to the courier's displeasure. Charge weapons, delay the blast by a few seconds, and then throw them. Dr. Tyranno nodded a few times as he listened to the explanations, as if they confirmed his own observations. As I thought, you probably charge solid matter with a unique form of energy, causing it to detonate afterward. Red flux? Ryan flinched as Dr. Tyranno's head abruptly snapped in his direction, so fast it fooled even the genome's enhanced sense of timing. How do you know that? Well, I've been studying powers with my last genius girlfriend, the time traveler said. We kind of figured out genome powers come from alternate dimensions, one for each elixir color. Fascinating. Now the courier had to take a step back as Dr. Tyranno started invading his personal space. I came to the same conclusions, but to have them confirmed by an outside researcher. God damn it, now Ryan could smell the dinosaur's warm reptilian breath, and Felix the cat delighted in his unease. That's not so funny when you're the victim rather than the perpetrator. Adam Kitten mocked the time traveler. So you suggest the werebear's extra organs come from an alien green dimension made of organic matter? Dr. Tyranno focused on Ryan and completely ignored the jab. I would be delighted to pick your brain open and compare notes. I do have a question of my own actually, Ryan said, pointing a finger at the Dynaman's tail. Aren't you a blue, rather than a green? I am a genius specialized in cloning, splicing, and gene therapy. My current appearance is the result of an experimental transformation serum. It's purely temporary. Felix hesitated, as if afraid to ask his question. Why, Doc? What was the point? Because I wanted to turn myself into a dinosaur, the genius replied like it was the most normal dream in the world. Oh God, you're a furry, Ryan realized. I guess we'll never be friends. You need fur to be a furry, Wardrobe pointed out. It's in the name. What's a furry? The panda asked naively. Ryan looked at him with a gaze of pure compassion and quiet appreciation for the hero's sheer luck. How could he survive in the wild so long? Your innocence must be protected, my young student. Hey, I'm not the one judging you on your appearance, Dr. Tyranno complained. But seriously, it all makes sense now, Ryan said. I always wondered how you managed to make knockoffs at all, but your power should give you a heads up. I couldn't make elixirs, the Dino genius admitted. Not truly. What I did was synthesize a specific resource that mimicked the properties of a true elixir. It's a shoddy imitation, and an imperfect one. It took years to create the Hercules serum from Wyvern, and even then I could only replicate a subset of her ability, namely her enhanced strength. And you never managed to copy my power, Wardrobe mused with a smile. The scientist grumbled before giving back Ryan his personal space, making circles in the room with his hands crossed behind his back. Because besides the usual genome health enhancements, your elixir didn't change much about your genetic code. The mechanics that allow you to channel multiple abilities transcend the sphere of flesh. I believe the elixir mostly serves as an intermediary between a genome and the dimension, providing their esoteric powers, Ryan stated. They also support their host by subtly guiding them with their ability, or in the case of psychos, pushing them to consume more elixirs. Felix coughed, interrupting the discussion. Excuse me, but, hosts, guiding? You make it sound as if elixirs are alive and intelligent.
Yeah.
They are, Ryan replied, much to his teammates' shock. Sort of. They're closer to viruses. Except they do not use RNA or DNA to transmit information, Dr. Tyranno pointed out. Though they manipulate ours. Sorry, Wardrobe said with a forced smile, you are losing me. They're like aliens who do not work the same way life on Earth does, Ryan explained the best he could. We don't understand how elixirs carry information, but they understand and manipulate how our bodies do. Enough to focus on modifying humans only, and ignoring animals. Exactly. Dr. Tyranno shouted, happy to find someone with whom to brainstorm. After being used, the alchemist's elixirs bond to an Homo sapiens cells on a molecular level, rewriting the DNA to make their host the vessel of a unique power. And no powers are exactly the same, though they may be variants, which implies the elixir selects the ability from a collective database and makes it unavailable to new hosts.
Yeah.
Ryan figured as much after extensive testing during his previous loops. Even when divided into doses distributed to a group, an elixir always bonded to one person only. Ryan could never bring himself to give someone 2 elixirs at once though, not even in a research loop. Nobody deserved to transform into the new bloodstream. Unfortunately, when you have more than one, even from the same color, they start to conflict, Ryan continued, while his teammates clearly struggled to understand. They edit the same genes. Think of it as 2 writers fighting over a script. They keep rewriting the other's work until the sentences don't make sense. And you can only have 2 powers at most. After which, the original 2 elixirs in the host cells cannibalize the newcomers, Dr. Tyranno finished, he and the courier working in perfect synchronicity. They repurpose new elixir injections towards stabilizing the unstable genetic code, but only for a while before they start fighting again. Psychos instinctively know that, as the elixirs in their bodies influence them to collect more in a doomed attempt to reach an equilibrium. What about Mongrel? Felix asked. He could use more than 2 abilities when I fought him. I can already answer that question. Dr. Tyranno said triumphantly. From the samples gathered from his custody, I can attest that this psycho consumed an alchemist-made white elixir, followed by almost all knockoffs available on the open market. So he's a white with the power to have more than 2 powers? Adam Cat asked, while the genius nodded. That's cheating. Instead of cannibalizing newcomers, the original elixir seems to force them to play along like a referee. It allowed his body to channel more than one ability, but unfortunately didn't protect him from elixir conflicts, mutations, and addiction. The substances don't destroy each other, but they still conflict. Truly fascinating. Such was the tragedy of Mongrel. He had earned an overpowered ability in theory, but lost the mental faculties needed to use his limitless potential. Do you think the psycho condition can be cured? Ryan asked Dr. Tyranno. He had given up after facing roadblocks in his understanding of elixirs, but perhaps the Saurian knew more than he did. Of course it can be. The genius lambasted the time traveler. Nothing is impossible.
Yeah,
Felix said. Augustus has 2 powers without any side effects as far as I know. Oh, could the panda get 2 powers? Naive Timmy's eyes widened in hope. 1 for each form? Possible, though unlikely. Dr. Tyranno said, seizing the opportunity for a free mad experiment. We can always try, but you will need to sign a discharge first. Ryan lightly slapped the panda in the back of his skull, much to his surprise. Ouch, Sifu, what was that for? Your real power is there, arrogant young disciple, Ryan said, pointing a finger at his sidekick's heart. Do not be greedy, you already have the greatest power of all. Why?
yeah,
Right, the panda said and nodded, but misunderstood his master's wisdom. I should master it first, before thinking of gaining a new one. There are rare cases of individuals with 2 powers and no side effects, Dr. Tyranno said. Augustus is the most famous, but not the only case on records. Either these lucky few possessed specific genes, or their elixirs modify different parts of the DNA sequences without conflicting. Since unlike psychos, Augustus' powers haven't formed an obvious synergy, I believe they coexist independently. I think I get it, Wardrobe said, having struggled to follow the discussion so far. You have 2 creators, but instead of fighting, they each design a different part of the ensemble? And if an equilibrium is possible, then it can, in theory, be replicated, Dr. Tyranno declared with enthusiasm. Imagine, giving 2 powers to every genome with no side effect? I could become a blue/green and maintain this transformation permanently, joining my bountiful intellect with a powerful saurian body. But you need to figure out the reason why there is an equilibrium at all, Felix pointed out. All your points are mere hypotheses. For all you know, it depends on the elixirs used rather than anything innate in the host. Yes, and unfortunately the few individuals with 2 powers in Italy refuse to cooperate. Dr. Tyranno shrugged. In any case, we do not yet understand elixirs enough to cure the psycho condition yet. But if Mecrin understood enough about powers to enhance and reverse engineer them, then why not us? Ryan's thoughts turned to the bunker below Rust Town, and his last visit there. The courier remembered entering a room with animals kept in elixir-colored liquid, and Big Fat Adam said the armory included knockoff production facilities. Perhaps even a cure for his power degeneration. He really needed to explore that place, after purging the meta from it. I would love to exchange notes on elixirs, and especially your brain copy project too. The last part caused Dr. Tyranno to snort in anger. Does everybody know of it nowadays? I'm afraid you need a level 5 clearance before I can even talk to you about it. The CEO already gave me an earful about security yesterday. Felix instantly tensed, while Ryan simply shrugged. Well, my scaled friend, how can I gain one such clearance and build a strong bond of sciencehood between us? I will petition management, but the procedure usually takes months. Dr. Tyranno snorted with disdain for Dynami's bureaucracy. Anyway, talking is time wasted, and I have a busy schedule. Go into the testing chambers and strip. You are all older than 18, right? My lawyer is very adamant about that part. 58. Family business. You're not a human, the film scriptwriter said. You are a panda who drank a human shifting elixir. Ryan remained silent a moment, before exchanging confused glances with the panda and Adam cat. All three of them sat in chairs next to a cardboard cutout showing Wyvern transforming into a dragon, and faced two Dynami's screenwriters with very strange ideas. I'm sorry, the panda asked, sinking in his chair while in human form. That's not my tragic backstory. Yes, we understand, but the first scriptwriter reminded Ryan of an accountant, his greedy eyes hidden behind glasses. He had traded his artistic soul for a suit, and it wasn't even made of cashmere. It won't sell. What my colleague wants to say is that it's not inspirational enough. The other, meanwhile, was a walking Hollywood cliché. Some 30-something-year-old guy who thought wearing a sweater and sneakers made him look trendy. Your public persona is marketed towards young children, and your story. I'm sorry to say it, but it's depressing. Ryan kinda agreed with them on that front. When the panda told everyone about how he became a superhero, the courier had expected a funny adventure. Instead, he listened to an epic personal journey straight out of a Rocky movie. I thought it was pretty inspirational, Adam Cat argued. There were so many twists and turns. Yes, but people don't buy tickets to see a hero struggle, Four Eyes said. They go to a movie to have a good time. Everybody says they hate power fantasies, but they sell well. Which is why I think you're a goldmine, quick save, Hip Writer said. Ryan looked at the pass around the man's neck, finally learning his name was Kevin of all things. We can make so many cool scenes with your power. I think you might become the next action movie franchise. I'm more of an R-rated black comedy material, to be honest, Ryan said with a shrug. Felix glanced at the panda, growing more and more annoyed. What do you think? The panda is glad to get a movie at all, to be honest, the man-bear replied. Do you want to be portrayed as, Felix struggled to find the correct wording. An uplifted mascot? Also, that's not how elixirs work, Ryan pointed out. We had an exposition scene like 2 hours ago. Moviegoers don't care about how it works or doesn't work, Mr. Four Eyes said. But a bear becoming a human will appeal to young children better than the other way around. I understand your skepticism, but that's because you haven't read the full Pandemania script, Kevin argued with a smile. The movie starts with an 8-year-old boy. I'm out of here, Felix said abruptly, rising from his seat and looking at Ryan. Coffee break? Coffee break, the courier replied, before patting the panda on the back. Want something, my young Pandawan? Nothing, thanks Sifu, the green genome replied, a bit embarrassed. Coffee gives me ulcers. Ryan and Felix left the panda alone with the corporate madman, walking through Star Studios Warehouse 6. After Tyranno's extensive testing, the team went there to both film a stinger scene at the end of the latest Il Migliore movie, and discuss possible plans for individual franchises. Countless engineers, actors, and technicians worked inside these walls, and though Il Migliore was Dynami's cash cow, the company's cinema branch produced everything from romantic comedies to action flicks. Ryan had expected Vulcan to wreck the place, but the genius was strangely quiet during this loop. A shame. He would have enjoyed a little chaos, since Dynami's focused entirely on bland moneymakers rather than more innovative movies. Wardrobe was busy acting as Wyvern's stunt woman, wearing the superheroine's costume while she floated in front of a green screen. Computer engineers then replaced Yuki's face with a CGI of her template. The more he learned about Wardrobe's power, the more Ryan thought the copyright limit was only her way to systematize it. From what he understood, her power instead decided if a persona was available for copying, or if it belonged to someone else. Since Dynamis allowed her to cosplay as Wyvern, she could do so, even if the persona was copyrighted. It would also explain why she could dress as Augustus Lightning but piggybacked Zeus myth so much, people had started to conflate the two personas together. You know, kitten, something has been bugging me about Dr. Tyranno, Ryan admitted, as they made their way to the nearest break room. His dinosaur obsession? No, the name, Ryan explained. Shouldn't it be Dr. Tyranno with a second N? Like Tyrannosaur? I thought only the French wrote it like that, Felix replied with a snort. Besides, it's his true name, Alain Tyranno. The dinosaur scientist's family name is Tyranno? Ryan asked with an eyebrow raised. That's like calling your son Van Doom, and he grows up to be a supervillain.
Yeah.
Much like the rest of the building, Dynamis put care into making the break room as trendy and aesthetically pleasing as possible. Equipped with a window view of the park outside the studios, the hall included leather sofas, a round table for conferences, and even a holographic fireplace. The duo walked towards the nearest coffee machine, waiting behind a line of caffeine addicts and overworked trainees. So what's your plan? Quick save. Bold of you to assume I have one, Ryan replied. Usually, I just wing things until they work out. The only plan that can't fail is the one you didn't plan for. You know what I mean, his teammate said with a frown. Why did you join Dynamis exactly? I can tell you aren't the celebrity type, and that you're playing a long game of some kind. So are you, kitten. They finally reached the machine, Ryan putting 50 cents in the coin slot. The machine quickly started pouring a cappuccino inside a paper cup. What made you want to leave the family fold? Bliss, he replied while asking for a normal coffee. Not milk? I'm disappointed. If I change my superhero name, will you stop with the cat jokes? No, I won't. You're the worst, Felix sighed as he grabbed his cup, motioning at a sofa near the window. Both heroes sat on it, peacefully looking at the green scenery beyond the glass. I left because of Bliss.
Yeah.
Ryan figured as much. Because they force your sister to make it? Partly, Felix replied with a frown. Just how much do you know about me? Are you some sort of professional spy? If I were, I would drive an Aston Martin, Ryan joked, enjoying the smell of his cappuccino. I know you're the son of Mars and Venus, and that you temporarily shared a flat with Zombato, Sphere, and Chitter. Did Enrique ask you to watch me? Felix asked, misunderstanding the situation. Make sure I'm not a reverse mole supplying info back to my family? Because he's already doing a fine job of keeping me out of any real action anyway. That made sense. Knowing Blackthorn, he probably considered Adam Kitten more valuable as a potential hostage or intel source than as a hero. Nothing of the sort, Ryan replied, sipping the coffee. I have a soft spot for people fleeing a toxic environment. Bloodstream? Felix chuckled at seeing Ryan's reaction, delighting at one-upping him for once. I did my homework too. You know the worst part? Ryan asked, as his thoughts turned to Len. Even dead and buried, he still holds his daughter under his sway, and I don't know how to break it. Felix waited a few seconds before asking the question burning on his lips. Did you kill him? No, but I arranged for his demise. Adam Cat flinched at Ryan's blunt confession. Do you hate your parents, Felix? Not enough to want them dead, but I wouldn't mind seeing them taken down a peg. They have a lot of blood on their hands, and they're dragging my sisters into the family business. They forced one to make drugs, and convinced the other to join the Killer Seven. Felix shook his head in disappointment. I thought my departure would force them to reconsider their choices, but Augustus' grip is too strong. From what Ryan had gathered, his departure did shake his family, but they chose to blame Dynamis or hope he would return to the fold. Nobody in the Augusti seemed likely to turn their back on the organization, except Vulcan, who had never been loyal to begin with. Adam Cat frowned upon glimpsing at something on the other side of the window, and Ryan quickly identified what. A very familiar rat observed the duo from beneath a bush, before quickly fleeing across the studio's park when spotted. "Chitter," Adam Cat said with a frown. "She's always watching me." "You were close?" Ryan asked, wondering if a rat swarm would suddenly appear to destroy the studio. "So you don't know everything?" "No, but I'm sure you're going to tell me soon." Felix snorted, but relented. "Zanbato and I were best friends once. Enough that we ended up sharing a flat for a few months, when I decided I should have my own place." "What changed?" "Someone stole Bliss batches from Mercury's division, the one where Zanbato works. The casino's staff distributes it to clients either for recreational purposes or to blackmail them. I helped Zan with the case, and it turned out the thieves were intelligent rats." "Chitter," Ryan guessed.
Yeah.
"We tracked the animals to their mistress and," Felix stopped for a moment, looking into the distance. It was a horrible sight, man. She was squatting in an abandoned apartment infested with rodents, and she... "Hey, easy kitten." Ryan put a hand on his teammate's shoulder. "Don't force yourself if it's too hard. It's fine." The would-be hero regained his composure. "You know Bliss can even affect genomes? When we found her, the stuff had given her an overdose. She had blood pouring out of her nose and eyes, Ryan. Mold growing on her skin. If we hadn't found her and rushed to a hospital, she would have died. And when the docs saved her life, do you know the first thing she asked for?" Ryan frowned, having already guessed. "More bliss?" More bliss. That poison hadn't just destroyed her life, Ryan. It enslaved her body and soul. Adam Cat made a disgusted face. "That was a fucking wake-up call for me." "But not for Zanbato?" "Zan," Felix's expression turned into a contemptuous sneer. "Jamie thinks he's a nice guy, but he doesn't know what freedom feels like. He owes his entire existence to the Augusti, and he can't fathom a life outside it."
Yeah.
He went the extra mile to keep Kyung clean, but he was just trying to assuage his guilt. He doesn't want to support the Bliss business, but at the end of the day, he does as he's told. The renegade finished his cup and tossed it into the nearest trash can with astonishing accuracy. "It opened my eyes," Adam Cat continued his tale. "I talked to Narcinia, and she admitted she never wanted to make that drug. But our parents always guilt-tripped her back into it whenever she attempted to stop. It's for the greater good of the family, honey, or addicts kill themselves because they can't help themselves. And Jamie, he let Kyung fall into the mafia lifestyle rather than keeping her away from it. After I realized just how deep it went, I couldn't stay anymore." "For all it's worth, I think you made the right choice," Ryan said, the story echoing a lot with his own. "You have the right to dump toxic people out of your life." "If it was just me, Ryan," Felix sighed. "My family kills so many innocents, and it corrupts good people too. I thought Dynamis could help me change that, but now, I don't know what to do anymore. From what I've seen so far, they're just as bad in their own way." "Things can change," Ryan said, trying to cheer him up. "No matter how bleak." His teammate scoffed in response. "You sound like a self-help booklet." "That doesn't make my words untrue," the courier replied with seriousness. "It can always improve. But you have to keep trying even if you fail, again and again. That's the hard part." He wasn't sure if these words were meant for Felix or Ryan himself, but he had to say them anyway. Both fell into an uncomfortable silence, neither knowing what to say next, and none wanting to return to the scriptwriters. And then, calamity struck. "Felix!" Her shrill voice sent a shiver down Ryan's spine, like death crawling out of the underworld. Felix had the exact same reaction, his eyes widened in horror as he turned his head to look behind. tell me I'm dreaming.
Oh no.
You aren't. Fortuna walked towards their sofa, wearing a fashionable golden shirt and skirt that exposed her legs for everyone to see. She smirked triumphantly when everyone ogled at her, glancing at Ryan as if expecting him to do the same. Our paths cross again. Much to her fury though, Ryan ignored her entirely to focus on the keycard dangling from her neck. Where did she get a pass? Oh, wait, stupid question. Of course a pass would magically fall into her hands. How the hell did you get in? Felix asked his sister, clearly far from happy to see her. The studios held a lottery, with the winners gaining a guest pass, Fortuna replied. And that's no way to greet your beautiful sister. And Dynamis let you in? Felix almost choked. Of course the corpos let me in, why wouldn't they? Look at me. I'm me. Fortuna put a hand on her waist. Though they tried to poach me, and I had to promise I would consider it. Do you realize what you made me do, you ungrateful brat? I didn't ask you to come, sis. You left me no choice. Fortuna complained. Neither of you answer messages. Wait, neither of you? Felix looked at Ryan with suspicion. How do you know my sister? That madman almost hit me with his car. Fortuna complained. And when I demanded he bring me and Livy home, he drove away like a savage. And I regretted the almost part ever since, Ryan deadpanned. How dare you say something like that, she protested, before making a haughty face. But I guess I will forgive you if you invite me for coffee. I have expensive tastes though, but hopefully you aren't as poor as you low. Is she always like this? Ryan asked Felix, Fortuna glaring at him in response. Unfortunately, Adam Cat replied with a heavy sigh. No wonder you ran away from home. I should have known you would make the pair, you're both infuriating. Fortuna crossed her arms. Felix, I'm here to bring you home. Then you will leave disappointed, the hero replied angrily. I told you. Unless you leave the hit squad, we have nothing to say to each other. We aren't a hit squad, we're bodyguards. Fortuna argued. Clearly she didn't understand the seriousness of her situation. We protect the Olympians. It's just that sometimes, we do it preemptively. By murdering people who Augustus thinks might become a threat. How long until you confront someone who can negate your power and your luck runs out? Adam Cat snarled. You're an assassin, Fortuna, and that's all you will be to me unless you walk away from this shit. What about Narcinia then? Do you know how heartbroken she has been since you left? What about Livy, you selfish ass? Fortuna accused her brother. We've seen the news, how you fought with psychos in Rust Town. Don't you think we're all worried for you? I can take care of myself, Felix said as he rose from his seat, his tone dripping with venom as he faced his sister. Now get out or I will show you the door myself. I'm not leaving without you. The two started arguing so loudly they completely forgot about Ryan's existence, with Fortuna accusing Felix of having abandoned their family, while her brother blamed her for joining the Killer Seven. The technicians looked at the scene with embarrassment, with a few members of the security staff wondering if they should intervene. Ryan let the two siblings argue while he enjoyed his cappuccino, only for his phone to start ringing. Oh geez, another unknown number, the courier mumbled as he picked the call. It's getting cliché. Quick save? The voice on the other side belonged to a man, and sounded somewhat familiar. Ryan was certain he heard before, but he couldn't put a name or face on it. The one and only, but I'm in between jobs right now, Ryan warned. Come to think of it, he never received that call in the previous loops. He wondered what had changed. To whom do I owe the pleasure? My name is Leonard Hargraves. We crossed paths 4 years ago, do you remember? Ryan immediately froze in place, checked that the two siblings couldn't hear him, and then answered. How could I not? I understand we don't have the best history together, but one of our own recommended we contact you. Ryan heard noise in the background, like someone talking to the living son on the other side of the line. Is Adam Cat with you? Perhaps, Ryan replied while squinting. What do you want with us? I think you know already, but fine. My team just arrived in town, and I wondered if you were both available to meet with us. From what I understand, we all want to cure New Rome of the cancers that infect it. Yes, they did. About time somebody cleaned up the trash. 59, Corpoalition. Ryan felt a pang of nostalgia as he drove on the highway. It had been more than a month worth of loops since he first arrived in New Rome, and he missed driving into the wasteland, Mad Max style. The world seemed open to him, all roads leading to a different quest. The courier could never anticipate when he would face a random encounter, whether it was a band of road warriors engaging him in a car chase or a mysterious hitchhiker out for blood. As much as he enjoyed civilization, Ryan was a creature of the road through and through. The carnival's rendezvous point was located near the ruins of Pompeii, south of New Rome. It had been quite easy for Ryan and Felix to slip away after the Fortuna incident. Nobody blamed her brother for wanting to take a breath of fresh air after their very public argument. Ryan felt a little bad about lying to Wardrobe though. He could tell she hadn't been fooled by their excuses, and knew something was up. Something has been bothering me, Adam Cat said on the seat next to Ryan. The Plymouth Fury followed the Neapolitan coast, the sea on one side of the road, and cliffs on the other. The psychos have infiltrated Dynamis, right? If so, they probably have access to my DNA tracker. They can follow us. They could. And in a past loop, they did. But now they can't. How so? Well, I'm not a genius with a capital G, Ryan quoted Jasmine, but I'm still a genius. The time traveler had wondered how the tracker worked. How could you track a genome by recording their DNA after all? However, after his discussions with Jasmine in the previous loop, the answer became obvious. Dynamis didn't track genomes through their genes, but by the flux radiation they passively released. So Ryan modified his car to keep the flux radiation within its confines, using the method Jasmine pioneered. Of course, it was a poor man's substitute for his ex's power armor. Staying in the car wouldn't cause Ryan to open a gate to the purple world, but it would make the passengers invisible to Dynamis' radars. Hopefully, at least. Ryan still looked into his rearview mirror from time to time. Felix didn't ask more questions and looked out of the window, his eyes gazing at the Mediterranean Sea. Ryan could tell his friend appreciated the silence. His sister's visit had put him in a foul mood. Speaking of Fortuna, she started sending messages to the courier once again. Much to Ryan's surprise, only half of them called him an ass and other names, the other half included questions about Felix's well-being.
Aww.
She cared. The constant ringing of Ryan's phone started to bother Adam Cat. My sister again? She's very persistent, Ryan said. I know I'm smart, funny, and handsome, but my popularity surprises me sometimes. Fortuna's power causes almost everything that can go well for her to do so, Felix replied with a sigh. She has never paid for anything, she gets gifts out of nowhere, and she always meets men desperate to worship her. After a while, it became a self-reinforcing loop of narcissism, and I think you broke it. Wait, that was it. Men threw themselves at Fortuna, so she took them for granted and crushed on the few ones immune to her charms. If Ryan behaved like the perfect gentleman to soothe her narcissistic ego, she would lose interest and leave him be. All he had to do was treat Lucky Girl for dinner, and overwhelm her with affection until she found another distraction. Kill her with kindness. Ryan, Felix said, apparently reading Ryan's mind as the courier typed a response on his phone. Can you do me a favor? If it's about the cat jokes, then you're asking too much. Adam Cat looked at Ryan, their eyes meeting. Don't fuck my sister. Ryan lost himself in the blue hue of his friend's irises, as he prepared an appropriate answer. Which one? I'm serious, quickie. Don't worry, Ryan replied, putting a hand on his kitten's shoulder. If I had to fuck the whole family, I would start with you. Felix recoiled in surprise, much to the courier's amusement. Shut up and drive, the hero said while looking at the road. After a short hour's drive without getting ambushed by the meta, the duo finally reached their destination. A lookout point on a rock, providing an unbeatable view of Pompeii. Even the world's end couldn't damage the ruins more than Vesuvius did, and while they briefly served as a raider gang's hideout, they had remained untouched by the wars. Leo the living sun was already present, hovering above the lookout's edge while in his shiny form. What a show-off! Though Ryan's eyes couldn't help but ogle at this perfect fiery form, and that lithe, flaming ass. The courier had slept with men, women, robots, monster girls, but never a son. Yet. A roguish woman with freckles and long auburn hair waited nearby next to an American bike, Ryan recognizing her as Ace, the carnival's main teleporter. Damn, that's really them, Adam Cat gasped in admiration, as Ryan parked the Plymouth Fury. I'm a big fan. Thank you, Felix. Unlike his favorite kitten, Ryan didn't flinch as Shroud appeared on the back seat. Truth be told, we wanted to talk to you for a while. How long have you been here? Felix asked, spooked. Far too long, Mr. See-Through replied, as he opened the car door. You drive like a madman, quick save. Thanks for the compliment, but there's only 3 of you? Ryan asked as the group exited the car to join the other carnival members. You weren't kidding about the turnover. We're 6, with the others already at work in the city, Shroud replied, sighing at the courier's unimpressed silence. I warned you we needed more time to gather our allies. Mushroom, Radiohead, and the Cossack are in France right now and won't arrive before a few days. I wish I could open portals that far, Ace said upon hearing them, before smirking confidently at the newcomers. But don't worry, we still pack a punch. What we lack in numbers, we make up in quality. Easy for you to say, you have a freaking son on your side, Ryan mused. While the meta had them greatly outnumbered, they did have greater individual firepower. The Sun incarnate looked at Quicksave with a mix of amusement and a tiny bit of respect. Greetings, Ryan, he said with his sexy hero voice. I wanted to thank you for the help you provided to us so far. It felt so strange to meet this man again. From his point of view, it had only been 4 years, but for Ryan, it had been centuries since Bloodstream's demise. And yet this event remained forever engraved in the courier's mind. Ryan couldn't quite put a word on how he felt about the carnival as a whole. On one hand, they separated him from Len for countless loops, but on the other hand, they saved him from Bloodstream, and he owed them a life debt. In the end, he leaned towards appreciation. Now that he had reconnected with Len, he would let bygones be bygones. However, he had also grown to like some Augusti members during his loops, and the carnival planned to destroy their organization one way or another. What Livia said about her mother's death also bothered Ryan, who wanted to investigate. The courier had come to New Rome to reunite with Len, but now, he had the feeling he couldn't leave the city even after the Metagang's destruction. A war was brewing, and too many lives were at risk. You were a carnival plant all along? Felix asked his teammate, interrupting his thought process. I'm more of a wild card, the courier replied. A one-man wrecking ball. Shroud chuckled. At least you aim in the right direction. Honestly, at first I thought you came to New Rome to pick a fight with us. I still haven't apologized for what happened with Bloodstream, Leo said, sounding genuinely apologetic. I hadn't seen you, and when I launched that blast. The alternative was worse, Ryan interrupted the humanoid son. After all, he had lived through it once. Bloodstream was sick and had to go for the good of everyone else. The end. I see, Leonard sounded surprised by the courier's response, but didn't push the subject further. The courier had literal centuries to emotionally process the events. Felix glanced at Ryan with sympathy. Instead of offering vague bullshit, he simply patted his teammate on the back without a word, for which the courier was thankful. Though paparazzi would probably mistake the scene for something else, if they saw it. As for you, Adam Cat, I congratulate you for your choice, Leonard said, nodding at the younger hero. It must have been hard to leave your family behind and stand for what is right. It takes great courage. You said you wanted to meet me for a while, Adam Kitten said, a little embarrassed. The scene reminded Ryan of an amateur boxer meeting Muhammad Ali by happenstance. Don't tell me you wanted to poach me too? Pretty much, yes, Shroud said. I wouldn't use the term poach, but we are always on the lookout for new recruits, and I feel you have great potential. The living son marked a short pause, as if considering his next words. There's also the matter of your sister, Narcinia. My sister? Felix instantly tensed up. What about her? Instead of answering yet, Sunshine looked behind the group as a new car approached the lookout. A black Maserati parked near the gathering, and two familiar faces stepping out of it. Quick save, Adam Cat. Blackthorn removed the dust off his suit as he walked towards them, Wyvern acting as his bodyguard. Things make much more sense now. Felix didn't seem all so happy, as he glared at the carnival. You called them? We didn't, Shroud replied, arms crossed. They did. Blackthorn contacted us a few days ago. There was a time when our two organizations considered allying against Augustus, Enrique said, his tone utterly monotone. Until Don Hector scrapped the proposal, as he always does. Are we all present? Sonny Boy asked. Almost, Enrique replied, raising his sleeve to look at a Rolex watch underneath. Though I hope you understand your mere presence threatens us all, Hargraves. If Augustus learns you are in town, he will climb down from his mountain and hunt you down like a dog. He will try, the living son replied. I made my decision long ago. I will not die before Augustus' empire collapses and he faces justice for his crimes. I am more worried about him going after us by association, Blackthorn replied dryly before raising his eyes. Ryan heard a loud noise approaching from the coast. But at this point, I guess it is inevitable. A heavily armed helicopter, which Ryan recognized as a Boeing CH-47 Chinook, flew towards the group and prepared to land. The Dynamis logo was painted on the main door, which opened before the aircraft could land. A towering figure emerged from within the metal husk, almost 2.5 meters in height. This genome was more machine than man. A bulky, black power armor protected most of his body, except for the head, which was covered by a glass dome. A skull, though, would have been a better term. The genome's flesh seemed to radiate with a crimson glow kept contained by the suit, and leaving the bones visible like X-rays. The armor seemed to have even more weapons than Vulcan's, including an energy minigun incorporated into the right arm, and rocket launchers on the shoulders. Ryan instantly recognized that Colossus for what he was, just by reading the stance and body language. A warmonger. You called him? Wyvern asked Enrique with a horrified face. I had no choice, the manager replied. While he tried to keep his composure, Ryan noticed the rows on his suit shifting, as if answering the green genome's hidden unease. We cannot win without his resources. Who is this guy? Felix asked, a little intimidated by the Colossus' fearsome appearance. Alphonse Monada, Dynamis VP. Wyvern clenched her jaw, her eyes betraying her unease. Alias Fallout. Fallout, Fallout. The Butcher of Malta? Ryan asked, having heard the rumors. He dropped a nuke on Augustus in a failed attempt to kill him, Shroud confirmed, before correcting himself. Or rather, he was the nuke. Wyvern nodded in confirmation. Hector exiled him to Sicily afterward, under the pretext of an overseas assignment. I didn't know he had returned. Dynami's vice president stepped down from his helicopter, the ground faintly shaking under his sheer weight. Brother, Hargraves, he politely greeted the people present with a deep, mechanical voice, before noticing Ryan and his cat. Who are they? Quick Save and Adam Cat, Enrique replied. Quick Save? Alphonse recognized the nickname, but for all the wrong reasons. Bloodstream's brood? Ryan tensed, but surprisingly, Blackthorn immediately came to the rescue. He's the one who provided the recording. I do not trust him, but our goals align so far. I see. Alphonse Monada examined Ryan closely, the courier waving a hand at the Borg in response. The vice president didn't even acknowledge the gesture, all business. And his sister? Ryan glared at the Tinkin, while Enrique answered, I let her go. You let her go? When Blackthorn wouldn't respond, even under his elder's fiery gaze, Dynami's VP shook his skull. You have always been too soft for your own good, brother. About time I came back to the mainland. What do you want with Len Sabino? Ryan asked, a dangerous edge in his tone. That is none of your business, Alphonse Monada replied angrily. Her technology is impressive, you will agree, Enrique said hastily. After her stunt with her bubble prisons, I wondered about hiring her for security purposes. An undersea prison might be the best solution to keep psychos under lock and key. Ryan could smell a lie when he heard one, but Leo Hargraves coughed and took over the discussion. Gentlemen, please. We gathered you to discuss how to deal with the various criminal groups in the city, and we strongly suspect Dynamis might be supporting them. Suspicions? Felix snorted. QuickSave provided a recording where the Meta's second-in-command declares having been hired by our CEO to harass Augustus forces, Enrique explained calmly, Wyvern crossing her arms in quiet fury. Considering Psyshock showed an intimate knowledge of top-secret Dynamis projects, and other circumstantial evidence, I assume the intel is genuine. It is, Shroud confirmed. I have scouted the Metagang's territory, though I could not get close to their headquarters without the land noticing me. They used repurposed Dynamis drones, and some of their unpowered mooks carried laser weapons. Though it clearly infuriated him to do so, Enrique kept digging his company's grave. I asked Devilry to investigate, and some of our technicians have been reported as missing. I believe either our CEO directly sent them to supply the Metagang with genius-made tech, or Psyshock used the opportunity to enslave them. Alphonse Monada listened to everything in silence, and when he finally spoke, it was with a tone of pure, unrestrained disgust. Our father has betrayed our trust, and that of all of New Rome. We have nothing to do with this mess, I assure you. Good, Ace said, before clearing her throat. Well, it's bad, but hopefully that means we won't have to fight. We intend to hit the Meta and destroy them, before turning our attention to the Augusti, Leonard declared. Ryan noticed that he avoided mentioning the bunker to the Corpos, which was wise. Perhaps they hoped to destroy the base before the Monada siblings noticed its existence. Will you interfere? No, Enrique replied. Yes, his brother said, causing everyone to glance at him. I will not stand by and let someone else clean up our father's mess. I will personally remove that stain on our reputation. I see now, brother, Blackthorn guessed. You suggest a coordinated strike? Il Miglior will support us? Leonard asked. They and my elite security team, Alphonse added. We will surround the psychos and wipe them all out, even if we must fight these animals street by street. Now he's speaking my language, Felix whispered to Ryan. Indeed, the courier was surprised by the Borg's decisiveness. Though he was clearly a closet supervillain considering his fashion sense and bloodthirsty behavior, the courier might consider calling upon him in a future loop if things went well. I have some reservations, Sonny Boy said. If the meta gang has infiltrated your organization all the way to the top, then the more people involved, the greater the risk of a leak. We will only inform our most reliable heroes and officers, Enrique argued. Which, when reading between the lines, meant those loyal to us and not to our CEO. A wise choice, but you forget a detail, Shroud argued. Psyshock will use hostages, and he can transfer his mind from one body to the next. He can do that? Wyvern asked with a frown. I wondered why he killed himself fighting Quicksave's group, but this makes more sense. Unfortunately, we have no means of properly canceling his ability, Shroud sighed, taking this personally. He has started transforming homeless people into thralls and giving them weapons. A frontal assault will lead to casualties, while a small strike team can decisively behead the meta's leadership. Ryan clenched his fist, as he felt an ominous sense of déjà vu. It was the first Rust Town raid all over again. There will be a conflict in the streets even if you miraculously defeat Psyshock and Adam, Wyvern pointed out with a grim face. The latter can barely keep his men under control, and without his unifying presence, they will probably rampage around. Enrique cleared his throat, commanding everyone's attention. Both strategies are not necessarily exclusive. The Carnival can focus on hitting the meta's leadership while our larger force surrounds their headquarters and contains Adam's men. After a short moment of silent consideration, Leo Hargraves glanced at his teammates. What do you think? I could quickly transport groups around town, said his teleporter. Like during our battle with Mekrin. If we coordinate properly, I think we can hit them hard before the meta gang can prepare a counterattack. Though Shroud remained silent, Ryan sensed his gaze on his back. The glass manipulator probably weighed the pros and cons of involving Dynamis directly. On one hand, it would make destroying the bunker easier, but on the other, it increased the risks of discovery. Eventually, the risk of Big Fat Adam getting his hands on orbital weaponry was too overwhelming to ignore. When would you be ready? Sunshine asked the corpos. Tomorrow, Alphonse declared. That's way too soon, Al, Enrique protested. The longer we wait, the greater the risk of discovery, the vice president replied with a grunt. Father will grow cautious once he learns I have returned. We can quickly mobilize, especially since Devilry is with us, Wyvern told her manager. By the time Hector learns who our target is, he will have no choice but to go along. I'm sure he will protest, but in the end, he can't publicly support psychos. Results will speak for themselves. Brother. Alphonse turned towards Enrique, his tone heavy. Once we deal with the meta and make them talk, you know what we must do. I can forgive Father's cowardice, but treachery? Never. For the first time since Ryan had met him, Blackthorn let out a long, heavy sigh. It reminded him of a condemned sinner bracing himself for Judgment Day. I hoped it wouldn't come down to this, Al. Father had his chance. For our company to survive, Dynamis needs new management. A firmer one. Alphonse observed his brother and waited for him to commit. Do I have your support? Blackthorn marked a short pause, before cautiously answering, yes. Wyvern's eyes narrowed as she listened. Enrique, are you suggesting? A coup, Blackthorn confirmed. Once the meta are dealt with, we will remove Don Hector from office whether he likes it or not. It will be a civil war, Wyvern warned. Hector won't go down without a fight, and our heroes will make the right choice, or pay for the consequences, Alphonse Monada said with an angry growl. Corruption, fame, and greed have poisoned our ranks for too long. They let the Meta and the Augusti make fools of us. It's time we purge the rot away, Wyvern. We cannot rebuild a functional post-war government on these foundations. Blackthorn glanced at the carnival. Where do you stand on this issue? We will see, Leonard replied. After what he did, Hector needs to be deposed, and we will act to protect innocents from the crossfire. However, this seems like a private matter between you boys, Ace said with a smile. And we have our own fish to fry. Augustus? Alphonse snorted. You miscalculate, Hargraves. He's our common enemy, and once father is out of the picture. If we succeed, brother, Enrique pointed out. Yes, Alphonse Monada snorted, as he returned to his helicopter. Clearly, he had made up his mind long ago. We will keep in touch. Brother? I will serve as a liaison between everyone, Blackthorn replied. Thank you. And without wasting time, Alphonse climbed back on his helicopter and flew away. Ryan couldn't explain why, but that man's behavior reminded him of Augustus, and he didn't appreciate it one bit. I like him, Adam Cat said, glancing at Alphonse's helicopter vanishing in the skies. He gets shit done. Wyvern clearly didn't share his opinion. He does, but he doesn't know when to stop either. If Alphonse becomes CEO. I know, Enrique replied. But the die is already cast. Felix, can I talk to you for a minute? Leonard asked Adam Cat. About my sister, the hero asked, as Sunshine invited him to walk away from the group for a private discussion. The living son probably didn't want the others to eavesdrop. Shroud, meanwhile, started discussing with Ace about the operation, bouncing off ideas how they could coordinate to surround Rust Town. Ryan decided to interrogate Shroud about Livia's mother, only for Blackthorn to focus on him next. Don't think I have forgotten you, Romano. Of course you haven't. Without false modesty, I'm unforgettable. You planned all of this, the manager accused the courier. I can feel it in my bones. Yet I still do not understand your end goal. Nothing in your file indicates you went out of your way to settle a grudge against the Metagang until you arrived in New Rome. Do I need a reason to hate the Metagang? After what Hannafat Lecter had done in the previous loop, the time traveler simply wanted him dead on principle. Ryan had promised Jasmine that he would kill Walleye in every single restart from now on, and he would follow through. I do not believe hate is your only motive, Enrique said, his tone sharp and icy. You have a hidden agenda, though I cannot fathom it yet. Does it matter, Enrique? Out of all the people present, Wyvern seemed to swallow the pill the least gracefully. We have more pressing problems. Hence why I let it slide so far, the manager explained himself. But make no mistake, Romano, you will explain yourself once the dust has settled. Wyvern scratched her head. Once the dust settles, your words say it all, Enrique. Do you regret it? Blackthorn asked, his tone softening. You can still sit this out. Never. The heroine shook her head. I joined Il Migliore exactly to run operations like this, and I've been waiting for your father to retire for years. If anything, I should rejoice that we can finally act as heroes, instead of pretending that we are. However, you dread to see Alphonse in charge. I want to protect New Rome, not see it turned into a battlefield. Your brother doesn't stop until all his enemies are dead. He can't be that bad? Ryan asked, the embarrassed silence that followed quickly telling him otherwise. Can he? None will say Alphonse doesn't believe in a cause bigger than himself, Wyvern said with a forced smile. But if his father hadn't sent him into exile, Dynamis and Augustus would still be at war. I want to see the Augusti crumble as much and their drug factory on fire, but it won't be without civilian casualties. I'm torn. I'm truly torn. Unfortunately, the more I consider it, the more I believe a conflict is inevitable, Enrique said with a hint of regret. Our respective visions of the future cannot coexist. Ryan's thoughts turned to Livia, and her desire to reform her organization. You could wait for Augustus to retire. The next person in the line of succession might be friendlier. I thought we could reach an agreement with Augustus' daughter once she took over the organization. Yes, the manager conceded. But the situation is too unstable. Augustus kind never goes into quiet retirement. Once he learns our father sent the Meta gang after him, and he will know, he shall strike back. And let's not talk about his feud with Hargraves. I just don't get it, Wyvern said, hands on her waist. Why would Hector risk so much by allying with someone like Adam? My father believes he can buy everyone's loyalty, if the price is right, Enrique replied. Money or knockoff elixirs, it makes no difference for him. But why does he prevent us from striking while hiring monsters to do it in secret? I suppose my father believes he can outlast the competition while secretly weakening it. At least, until Augustus' tumor kills him, and Dynamis can strike his organization without fear of retaliation. Ryan, who had stopped paying attention to the conversation, abruptly froze in place. Come again?